Can y'all hear me? Let's see. It's a little lag, so I'm trying to make sure.
Can y'all hear me?
There it is. Okay. Let's see. Hey y'all, hey, and welcome to Tootie Talk Sense. I know it's been a while, it's been a minute. It's a whole new year. It ain't a whole new me, it's the same old me, but I'm gonna try to do right. Now, what I'm gonna try to do is do a combination of going live and dropping and doing pre-recorded. But y'all, just so y'all know, when I do a pre-record, I'm gonna do it as an instant premiere, or I'm gonna schedule it and drop it. But I will be down in the comments so we can talk, y'all. So that's what's been going on, y'all. Y'all, what's been going on since y'all got a new president? Huh? How y'all been faring out there? Y'all been all right? We gonna talk about it. Let me drop this a couple of seconds of this theme song so we can discuss. Okay, y'all. Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? So I decided to come in here a little early because today gonna be a busy day, and I got to drop my daughter off at practice later on. I want to make sure I'm on time. Okay, y'all. So I know since I haven't been on here, the algorithm is not gonna have me up. So make sure that y'all like and hit the notification. So hit all so y'all can see when I go live. Now most people are gonna catch this on a replay. So the replay game gonna be in there commenting because I'm gonna check the comments and I'm gonna get back to y'all. Okay. Now, as y'all can see from the title, what we're gonna talk about is the birthers. And the title of the video is Birthers. Know our history or you're bound to repeat it. Now, as y'all is well aware, Donald Trump then dropped 5011 executive orders, right? When he became on his first day of president, when he became the president. He was already president-elect. When he was sworn into office, he dropped about 5011 executive orders. He dropped saying I don't know how many pardons. I think it was hundreds and something. I know his hand hurt. I know he got to have carpal tunnel by now. Okay, but before Biden left, I told him, I said he should be signing pardons. Sign him like Oprah, give him away his gifts. Okay, because you knew what he was gonna do when he got up in there. Now we're gonna discuss this birther, right? This executive order that's address citizenship. Now, the reason why the video is called Know Our History, which is Black people history, or you're bound to repeat it. As y'all I know a lot of people have seen the statistics, the facts, the demographics, whatever you want to call it, that came out when Donald Trump won and told you who voted for him. And there was either over 50% or roughly 50% of Hispanics that voted for him. And a lot of us is over here like, why? Y'all don't remember him locking them kids in a cage? What he called Puerto Rico? The trash island, not him, the comedian. The comedian that came on at one of his rallies. The trash island, his border czar that was saying that he shipping everybody back. He said, if y'all don't want to be separated, then go back with them. It's what he had said. He said what he said now. And I'm like, okay. Now, I do understand that it's not the immigrants who voted for him because the illegal immigrants, of course, cannot vote in the U.S. Election. So I do understand that. But I have seen videos before where the news will go around and was interviewing different Hispanics. And some of them had the view as if that they wasn't, even if they had came over here illegally and they had the kids and the kids are here, but they have been here for, very long time, 15 years, 20 years. And they was like, okay, well, you eventually got your citizenship. This is an interview I had seen. I forget what news channel it was on, but it asked the question, you eventually got your citizenship. Don't you have family here? Like in the U.S. who's illegal immigrants? And they're like, yeah, but he's not going to send them back. It ain't even funny. It's just illogical. They said he's not going to send them back because he said he sent them back, sending back criminals. And they are good people. They work and they take care of their family, and they're just here to have a better life. And the border czar had said that once you cross the border illegally, it's against the law, and you automatically a criminal. So if y'all seen this week that, yeah, he's rounding it up, baby. Now he filled up a plane, like a military plane, to drop people off in Colombia. And the Colombian president, like, no, what you're not gonna do is bring my people over here, because he had them handcuffs and stuff. So that was the thing. But let me get into talking about this executive order, because the executive order addresses issues, which is pretty much is going to say that before all our life, it was if you was born in the U.S., you are an American citizen. But this new executive order states that if your parents are illegal immigrants and you're born in the U.S., you are now an illegal immigrant. You are not a U.S. citizen just because you was born here. That's what the executive order say. Now I'm gonna read y'all the executive order. So, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll pull it up. So y'all won't think what's the name of this executive order? Executive order protecting the American citizenship. And you'll see how the Dred Scott decision ties into this executive order, and then also about we'll discuss the 14th Amendment. So I'm just pulling it up. I printed it out, but I'm gonna pull it up so y'all can see it. And this is the White House. And make sure. Oh, let me get that subscribe out. It been there the whole time, and I'm just over here talking. But do what it say. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video too when y'all come in here. But let me move that down. Okay. And this is from whitehouse.gov. This is the official order. So I know maybe that'd be big enough for y'all to see it, so that's why I'm going to read it. So it says, by the authority vested in me as president of the Constitution and the laws of the United States, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose. The privilege of United States citizenship is a priceless and profound gift. The 14th Amendment states, all persons born or neutralized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That provision rightly okay, so I like to go and explain what it says when it gets too wordy. So all that says, all persons neutralized in the United States. It's just saying all people who are born in the United States. You are now a citizen of the United States, and you're of the state that you reside in. You legal in the United States and the state that you reside in. That's all that says. So then they go and say that the Supreme Court of the United States shameful decision in Dred Scott versus Stanford, which misinterpret the Constitution as permanently excluding people of African descent from eligibility for United States citizens solely based on their race. But the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born within the U.S. The 14th Amendment has always excluded from birthright citizenship persons who was born in the United States but not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Consistent with this understanding, the Congress has further specified through legislation that a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a national citizen of the United States, generally mirroring the 14th Amendment text. Among the categories are individuals born in the United States and not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The president of the privilege of United States citizenship does not automatically extend to persons born in the United States. When that person's mother was unlawfully present in the United States and the father was was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said person's birth. So what they're pretty much saying is that the 14th Amendment, which was specifically written to go against the Dred Scott decision. I'll tell y'all about Dred Scott. It's gonna be long. I'll give y'all the history behind that. But that's the decision where a slave had took his master to court to sued him for his freedom because the master was traveling to free states and the slave took him to court to sue him for his freedom. And the Supreme Court ruled that blacks was not citizens, they were property. So the 14th Amendment nullified that decision by saying that blacks were U.S. citizens because they were born in the United States. What Trump and his team is now saying is that that law was never intended for immigrants. They pretty much are saying like the blacks didn't have a choice to be here. The white people brought them over, and everybody who was born in the United States is the African Americans that was born in the United States is a United States citizen. They are saying that 14th Amendment does not apply to illegal immigrants. So now this executive order takes the 14th Amendment and says that what he's doing is pretty slick too. Because if you ratify the amendment, you need like 2/3 of Congress, and it's a whole process to ratify the Constitution, to put another amendment into the Constitution. So what they're doing is now saying, oh, Trump could do this executive order because he's really not ratifying the Constitution. What he's doing is interpreting the Constitution in the way of which it was meant to be interpreted back when they made it. So he's just like, oh, I'm not changing it. I'm not changing the Constitution. I'm just telling y'all what they meant. And now I'm going to make a law about what they meant. I said, okay. So, and I like up in here, you got to watch what people say. Because he said, I noticed that he put the mother and the father. And I said, that's interesting. I wonder why. Because I hear that Trump grandfather was an immigrant. So I'm like, why he put the mother and the father? That's because his mother was an illegal immigrant. So so this law wouldn't even apply to me. I would have still been, make sure you put and father up in there. Because I don't want nobody saying that now I'm not a citizen according to my own law that I made up. And now I shouldn't be president of the United States. No, I'll put mother and father. So it says that the mother and father, if the mother and father are unlawful in the United States, and they birth a child, that child is now unlawful. Or if the person, or if the mother was in the United States temporarily, like on a visa, a student, a visa waiver program, or visiting on a student work or tourist visa, and the father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of the person said birth, that person is not a U.S. citizen. He said, I don't care where you're born at. If your mama and daddy is not U.S. citizen, then you are not a U.S. citizen. So I said, this is very interesting because as you see, besides them trying to get rid of the DEI, or are getting rid of the DEI and are getting rid of some Civil Rights Act, you see that the history and how the Dred Scott is in this executive order, and the 14th Amendment is in this executive order. So that's why I say learn our history. Now, I done told y'all I'm from Chicago, and the blacks and Hispanic relationship is not the best here. Maybe it didn't get better, but maybe in the 80s. Besides the cops was a whole mess. Maybe in the 80s, our relationship with the Hispanics was so bad in certain areas. The dirty cops would literally pick up a black person. And if they can't find like nothing on you, they will drop you off in a Hispanic neighborhood because there's a high chance that you will either get jumped, beat up, or you will get on the line. So that's what I said. I see that the New Yorkers like, oh, we let Fat Joe and Jake and Jennifer from the block, what's her name? We let them say the N word because, in New York, everybody is on top of each other and we all the same and we don't make no difference. Maybe in Chicago, they say the N word. They mean it and not in a good way. So, y'all, let me go tell y'all what this Dred Scott decision was, because this was let's know the history behind this, okay? So, and this is how they get African American also to take generations of kids, because it's like I don't know, y'all not citizens, y'all still property, and if my property produced property, then that property is still mine. So this was in St. Louis between 1830 and 1833. It was a man by the name of John Emerson. He was a surgeon in the United States Army, and he buys a slave, Dred Scott. Now Emerson moved around a lot, and he took Scott with him everywhere he went. He took his slave with him everywhere he went because, God forbid, he had to do his own work. So he like, no, I'm taking Scott with him. Now in 1836, Emerson moved to Fort Armstrong, Illinois, and he took Scott with him. Now Missouri slavery was legal, but in Illinois it was illegal. So in 1837, Emerson moved to Wisconsin, and slavery was illegal there too. So he got a slave from where he was living at, and at that time it was legal. But he went to two different states with his slave, who continued to be a slave, even though those two states slavery was illegal. So Scott, his slave, Dred Scott, had met and married another slave named Harriet Robertson, owned by a guy named Farrell. Emerson moved back to Missouri, but left Harriet and Scott behind. Now, the doctor, the surgeon, he moved back to Missouri, but he left his slaves at the house that he had them at. Then he would lease them out to other Army personnel in Wisconsin while he was in Missouri. Now, how you leasing somebody out in Wisconsin when Wisconsin slavery is illegal? I don't know, but that's what he did. Now, Emerson met and married Eliza Irene Stanford while in Louisiana. Emerson sent for Scott and Harriet, his wife. He sent for his slave and his slave wife, and the wife was pregnant. So she had the baby on the way to Louisiana in a free territory. So technically, the baby should have been free. They all returned to Missouri, which still had slavery. In 1843, John dies, and his wife, Irene, inherits his estate and the entire Scott family. Mind you, the baby was born in free territory, but she inherited the mama, the daddy, and the baby. So in April of 1846, the Scots sued Irene to obtain their freedom. And at that time, they had two kids. Previous owners paid for the Scots lawyers, but lost due to a technical rule that Harriet and Dred couldn't prove that they was Irene's slave. So the first time they sued Irene, who was their owner's wife, but the owner died and the wife kept them. And they sued her, and I guess the previous people that he worked for, when the owner leased them out, paid for their lawyer to sue them for the freedom. But They lost because the court was like, well, you can't prove you're a slave. So they lost the case. Then they got a second trial, and they proved that they was Emerson's slave, won a trial, and was granted their freedom. Now, Irene lawyers uh, appealed because losing four slaves was a lot of money, and they said they were slaves and should have sued, and they shouldn't have been allowed to sue because they're slaves. Their property, they don't have any rights. So so first they lose because they couldn't prove they're slaves. Second, they proved they're slaves, but won their freedom. Then the lawyers appealed and was like, nah, they slaves. They can't sue in the first place. And won. So then Dred Scott sued again in 1853 in federal courts, and lawyers Roswell Field agreed to help free of charge, but he was suing Irene brother John, because Irene, and ain't this bad a bitch. Yeah. So she didn't took these people to court. Well, they took her to court first. Lost. They took her to court again. Won. She took them and appealed the decision. Now she don't even want the family. She gives the family to her brother. Then so Dred Scott goes and sue her brother over, ownership, and accuse her brother of assaulting his family. She probably was mad and knew her brother was a whole asshole and was like, oh, okay, you think you want to sue for freedom? You think it's bad with me? Wait till I send you over to my brother. That ain't what it said, but that's what I believe happened. So anyway, the judge sat with John and ruled that Scott was in Missouri, and because Missouri slavery is legal, they're still slaves. They took it to the Supreme Court, and then and that's when the case became known as Dred Scott versus Sanford. And they made the decision 7-2 in favor of Sanford. The court ruled Scott case should have never been heard under the Constitution because Scott was never a citizen, and ruled that slaves were property. And since slaves was property, Congress couldn't tell you what to do with your property. This led to a big outrage and divided the nation, and it grew bigger and bigger. And the Civil War started between 1861 and 1865. Now, what I found interesting about this, right? Besides that lady didn't want them, gave them to the brother instead of just giving them the freedom. Talking about, and then she say, oh, losing four slaves is a lot of money. I can't afford to lose four slaves. But then gave them to your brother. Yeah. So y'all remember that Lincoln signed the Emancipation, a proclamation on September 22nd, 1862. And it went into effect on January 1st, 1863. And this was supposed to free slaves, but the war was continuing on to June 19th, 1865. So, that's what Juneteenth come in. Because the proclamation was signed in 1862, but they go to Texas, find out there's still, people in slavery down in Texas. And so the Juneteenth is 1865, which is 3 years after the proclamation was signed. So, and look, this is how, when I found this out, once I get to researching something, I just keep diving in and like, oh, I found that interesting. And let me tell all my new subscribers, this is not a political channel. This is not a conscious channel. Like, you won't get any of that here. This is a channel of things that I find interesting. I talk about ratchet TV. I talk about baddies. I talk about trending subjects. This is just things I find interesting. I come talk to y'all about it. So you see, the Dred Scott decision was because Black people was not citizens. They were property. So the Sanfords, which is her brother, end up winning the case. And it's called outrage. And eventually, y'all know, the Civil War happened. And I said the reason why I'm tying this into Juneteenth, the reason why I say know our history so you won't get caught up in the same thing. So they signed the Juneteenth is 1865, which was 900 days after the proclamation went into effect. It was 71 days after Robert Lee surrendered in 1865, and 24 days after the abandoning of the Confederate military in 18 and May 25th. Now, this is what Juneteenth comes into play. So Robert Lee lost in April. And what I found interesting, you see, we're doing this executive to order, which is for Hispanics, right? I did not know the last person, even after Juneteenth, the last Confederate army that was still fighting and refused to give up in the South was Native Americans. Did y'all know that? Was Native Americans. And even though the Venezuelan people is down in Central America, you got Mexico, but if you look at it, that is a big area that was Native American. And I said, ain't this about a kick in the butt? So y'all was the one. Now, to be fair, the Native American fought, it was 5 tribes that fought for the South. They fought for the South because the North had took a lot of their land, and because they had slaves and they didn't want to give up their slaves for financial reasons, as they say. But I said, this is about a kick in the butt. Now look what they doing to y'all ancestors. Look what y'all did to us. And now look what they doing to y'all ancestors. But let's continue on. Let me tell y'all about this Native American tribe. So Robert Lee lost in April. He was the largest Confederate force that was in Virginia. The second largest Confederate force was Joseph Johnson, which is the army in Tennessee. On April 12th, he received the news that Robert Lee lost. And then I think he quit on the 16th. This was the biggest surrender of the Civil War. It was like 90,000 troops gave up, and they returned to the Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, which we always know what go even to this day. They fought so hard, and they still upset right now because you see the stories coming out of Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So now, news reached Alabama that Johnson surrendered, and then they surrendered 10,000 troops on May 4th. But those they surrendered on May 4th. But them rednecks refused to quit, baby. Them rednecks in Texas like, we keeping these slaves. So they just continue to fight, even though half, most of the Confederate army, just about all of it, had quit and surrendered. So even after the troops west of the Mississippi continued to fight, in Texas, a group of 350 Confederate soldiers beat 800 Union soldiers. But at that point, it was pretty much Texas versus Texas. Like, that was Texas residents of pretty much Texas in the Civil War. They had their own Civil War because the Civil War was over and the Confederates lost. But they surrendered on May 26th. So they surrendered on May 26th in Galveston. Now, what's crazy, it wasn't the whites that continued to fight after May 26th. It was the Native Americans. So in Indian Territory, which was Oklahoma, a general who was the first Native Americans to serve as a Confederate general kept his troops in the field for nearly a month after Smith gave up the Trans-Mississippi Army. On June 23rd, this Native American finally acknowledged defeat and surrendered his unit of Confederate Cherokee. This is the 5 Indian tribe: Cherokee, Creek, Semolas, and Osage troops. And that's when they gave up their Confederate army. They was the last Confederate army to give up. So after the Civil War, we got the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments in the Civil Rights Act of 1866. And the 14th Amendment is what overturned the Dred Scott decision, which was that black people wasn't citizens, they was property. So the 14th Amendment is what did that. Now, the 14th Amendment There's an area in there about citizenship that is specific to overturn a Dred Scott decision. This is where Trump executive order is aimed at. And that's what I read y'all, that he was like, oh, the 14th Amendment doesn't mean that if you're born in the U.S. and you're a U.S. citizen. That was just for black people, to declassify black people as property and to say that they are U.S. citizens. It was not meant for these illegal immigrants coming over here. And like I said, it's difficult to amend the Constitution. So instead of trying to amend the Constitution, he's trying to get the meaning restated, which is easier. Because if you go through the Supreme Court, which he handpicked the Supreme Court, so he know all his stuff gonna go through the Supreme Court, and it may be a chance that he can get a lot of it pushed through because they gonna agree with him because he the one who put them in office. So yeah, that's that on that. Also, I want to talk about, it was this, I think I was watching Reese Waters. It's another YouTube. Now he is a political channel. Everything he talks about is political. You're not gonna get that from me. You see, I had to type it out because I wasn't gonna remember all them dates. I don't remember history like that. Okay, I can give you the gist of what happened, but all them dates and states and what happened at, go to Reese Waters for it. But what was also, I found connected to black people history in the U.S., African American, blacks, whatever you want to call us in the U.S., that before Trump took office, there was letters going around, and it made the news, that there was letters going around in this town where they was telling people, to turn in your, if you suspect somebody of being an illegal immigrant, turn them in. I don't care where they at. They could be at church, at school, while you at work, be looking around, seeing who the illegal immigrants, so you can turn them in. And then the plan is to take all their property and take their property from them, because once they're gone, this is going to be vacant property that's either, usually the state will take it, auction it off, bank or whatever, that they're feeling like it's going to be some, cheap property that's available, and we're going to build our economy back up. And I said, if you know the era of lynching in the U.S., the Black Wall Street and things of that nature, that when they looked at it, especially in the Black Wall Street, that the Black Wall Street happened, and it was an affluent black community that was thriving. And a lot of whites were mad that, these black people had grand pianos and artwork and everything that they couldn't afford. It was poor white people who couldn't afford it. But when there was a situation where a black man was playing for something, and they looking for a black man, they burnt down the whole community, and pretty much took possession of those houses, those properties that was worth a lot of money. I said, right now, this is what is seemed to be happening, that they may have planned for the Hispanics. So know our history so you won't repeat it. There's a reason why they don't want our history up in the school books, that they don't want to teach it no more. Besides that, they don't want the kids, the white kids, to have white guilt. Look, they gonna try to take your property. And you see in the news now here in Chicago, they're telling, of course, they are saying this executive order is against the Constitution, and Trump can't do that. So this order is going to the Supreme Court. So they are also starting to round up other immigrants, and they are telling people, Hispanics, Latinos, whatever you want to be classified as. They are telling them to keep your paperwork on you, keep your IDs on you, because when they rounded you up, just like back in our days, back with the blacks, when we first got freedom, or when they was free up north, but not not in the South, we had to walk around with them freedoms paper. Know our history, you're gonna repeat it, because that's pretty much what it is. You need to walk around with your freedom papers, or they'll lock you up and send you back to wherever they think you come from. And Guess what? For some of them, it will be to me. Now that this is conspiracy theory, but in my mind, or from me knowing history, it probably will be a money grab. It is immigrants out here, Hispanics, immigrants, that they're not criminals. They are here for a better life, and a lot of them have worked hard and built a better life for their family and own property and own businesses. And if they take them and send them back, then what happens to that property? What happens to them houses? What happens to those businesses? And you think the people out here with money is not going to try to grab that up? Maybe they did not find out what these letters. There was actually letters that Reese Waters was talking about. They did not find out where those letters came from, but that was the whole gist of the letters. That once they gone, we taking their property. So again, y'all know y'all history, know our history, or you might find yourself repeating it. And that's why we told y'all, not to do it. But at this point, we let them cook because ain't nothing else we could do. We did what we could do. We voted. We did our part. It's messed up because we all here in this America, and we often have to deal with whatever consequences or laws and some of these executive orders that have been put into place. But I'm be praying for y'all. Pray for me too, okay? Y'all, I don't know what I want to do next because there's a list of things of topics, whether they're old or new, that I need to get through. Well, that I want to get through, that I want to talk about here on the channel. So I really don't know. Is it going to be the black rapper Snoop, Nelly, Rick Ross, Soulja Boy? Is it going to be the Wendy Williams? I used to do reviews of baddies, but that little health, she struck my channel, y'all. And I'm looking like, little old me, really? But I said, y'all put in the comments y'all want to talk about baddies. A lot of people like, I can take it or I can leave it. So what else do we have to talk about, y'all? There's a lot of stuff going on. I feel like everybody got P. Diddy covered, so I really don't need to talk about P. Diddy right now. I guess the recent development of them maybe charging him as far as he's putting a hit on Tupac. That could be. I don't know. Drop down in the comments and let me know what y'all want to talk about, and I'm gonna pick one of those subjects. Now, I was doing it on like 11, but I never have time because I talk too doggone much, as y'all could tell. So I always be going over my lunch. So I'm like, I can't do it at 11. So I'm gonna try to maybe my pre-records I'll drop at 11, and then my other ones maybe around this time. And that's only because I don't know about this time, y'all. I'm gonna get it together. Hopefully my schedule will become more consistent. The only reason why I'm able to do it at this time because I cooked enough yesterday that we got leftovers because my daughter got to go to her all her different classes. Thank y'all for tuning in. Don't forget to like the video, okay? Subscribe to the channel and follow me on social media. I don't have Twitter no more, but follow me on Fanbase and Facebook. And I think I still got Instagram and TikTok. Okay, I will catch y'all next time. Y'all stay safe out there in them Trump streets. Bye.